and welcome to a brand new Sportscast Jersey football chat. Today we are covering the women's game again, and we are joined by Rozel Rovers Women's manager, Tim Pryor. How are you doing, Tim?
Yeah, hi Dan. Yeah, all good, thank you.
Good, good. I want to go right back to the start for you personally, and with Rozel, ladies team. How did it first come about? When did you first take over as well?
Yeah, so I'm into my sixth season now, which has gone really quickly actually. But back to the start, it all came about. I was doing some hosting of one of the Jersey Football Association award nights, and had probably had too many beers and got speaking to Jodie Botterill, who's been very prominent in the Jersey football scene for so many years. And she mentioned this new team was starting at Rozel, but the only thing they were lacking is a manager. And having had one too many beers, I said, "Yeah, I'll give that a go." And the rest is history, I suppose. So, pretty daunting thing to get stuck into as someone who hadn't coached in the game at that point, didn't have any coaching badges. Always been a massive football fan, and had covered my background's in radio, so I'd covered a lot of the local sport and local football for a while at the BBC. So I felt I'd be good at it, but I've definitely relied on a couple of things. One, going through my level 1 FA coaching badge, which was a big boost and kind of reaffirmed some of the things that I thought were good coaching techniques, and also having some great coaches alongside me over those 5 years that I've done. Those people that have supported me, run sessions, and worked with me. I think my strength is probably in organisation and being quite structured and thorough, making sure the players are in the right place at the right time, the right ground. But I've definitely needed those supportive coaches along the way, and always seem to form good relationships over those 5-6 years.
Yeah, and how long did it take? You were saying you went in there as basically a novice to coaching. How long did it take to get you really comfortable and confident, I guess, as well in your style of coaching and coaching sessions and what have you?
I'd say I'm probably still not comfortable and confident in the sessions. I have to work hard at them. I am more of a manager than a coach. Without Harry Walker this season, he's due back in the new year, which will be a welcome boost to me. I think you do get more confident in planning a session. The more you do, same with most things, isn't it? The more you do it, the more confident you get. But it takes time. We've got some of our players are qualified coaches as well, so to have them to rely on is great as well, and they're able to add their experience now. We were and still are probably the youngest women's team in terms of player age, but now we've been going 5-6 years. Some of those that were there from the start are taking on roles in the team that allow them to offer up their experience and pass that on to some of the new younger players that we've had this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to touch on that, and obviously been there good for years. A lot of the players have probably been there all of that time as well. Some have moved on, some have come in. How much do you enjoy seeing the development of the players and even the bonding of the players in the team and yourself and the team develop over those years?
Something we tried to do right from the start was to get the young players in. So you have to be 16, for those that don't know, to play in the adult game in Jersey, which is a bit of a barrier to some. Some teenagers, 14, 15-year-olds, get lost to other sports, whether it's netball, whether it's just socialising or go off and do other things. But we were keen, when they turn 16, when they're old enough, that we want them to be playing for us. And some of our best players over many seasons have been those younger players. They got the energy, they've got the drive. They're probably not hungover on a Sunday morning like some of the older ones might be when they turn up for a Sunday morning women's game. So we've been keen to get the young players in from the start. We're still really keen to do that. We had Emily LePage just a week or so ago scoring the winning goal in the week that she turned 16. But that's been brilliant to see some of those younger players And it's not always at Rozel. Anita Tavares, who was with us the first couple of seasons, has gone off to America and is doing really well there. So to see them develop is really satisfying.
Yeah, absolutely. It's obviously been a successful few seasons for you in the team. What is that down to, from being in that dressing room, from being at the games every single week? What is that drive and success down to?
I think a lot of it is around attitudes. We've seen that actually over many years, but in the last few weeks, we've had to really battle for a couple of victories where we've only had 10 players, or we've not had the players that have maybe been available earlier in the season. We've got quite a few injuries. So I think the attitude is a massive thing. We've never had a red card in our 5.5 seasons together, which is something really important to me. See some teams in some matches have 2 red cards in one game, let alone go 5.5 seasons without one. So that attitude has been massive for me, and I'd also put a lot of the success down to the senior players passing on their knowledge. So I mentioned Jodie earlier, Jodie Botterill, the way that she's able to show, even moving into her late 30s, that she's still got that drive, she's still got the right attitude, she's turning up on time for games. And so that's been really important as well. And then I suppose the question of, what you put the success down to, I suppose it helps when you've got really good players. And I've been really lucky to have not just those attitudes that I talked about, but players that are really talented. And then if you put that work rate together with talent, then you've got a good chance, haven't you? If you've got the best players and they work the hardest, then you've got a really good chance of doing well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you touched on it earlier, the youth coming through at all clubs, but Rozel, I remember first coming covering, and Macy, Leah were coming through,
Yep.
and then Roisin came through, and now Emily's coming through. How pleased are you that the ladies are coaching those younger girls, and then seeing them come through? How good is that for the club as well?
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's what we're all about, really, is that getting the players to attend training from around that age of 15, 16, and then get them into the team and get them on doing well. But that's probably the most enjoyable thing, is seeing those younger players develop. And some of the players, when they started now, so if they were just turning 16 in our first season together, they're now early 20s, 21, 22, and amongst the leaders in the group. So Tiff, who's our captain, Tiff Sumby, she was a young captain for us in our first season, went away for a bit, is now back, and is our captain, is a brilliant leader for us. We've got brilliant leaders around the team that develop some of those younger players. You've got Holly in midfield. We've got Lou Vandervliet, who joined us, Louise Vandervliet, a couple of seasons ago. And I know one of the reasons she came across was there was one of the young players in particular that she wanted to work with and help develop as well. And so that's really nice to see them getting involved.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It's good to watch. New season. Well, it's not a new season, and it's been going on for a little while. But how's it start for you guys? Obviously, cup competition first in the women's format, kinda, and then leagues just kicked off. How's it going?
I mean, it's been a bit stop-starty, really, both in terms of the way that we've played in our form, but also the fixtures and the gaps that we've had between the fixtures, where you've got maybe a few weeks and you might get a win and then you lose that bit of momentum again. And we started really well. Our first game of the season, 4-0 win in the cup against St. Peter, all 4 goals in the first half. So it was an excellent start to the season. Hannah Campbell scored a hat-trick in that game, but has since been out with an injured knee. So I'm hoping she'll be back soon and she can pick up that form that she showed in that first game. I think we've played 6 fixtures so far. I think we've won 3 of them, lost 2 and drawn 1. So we're certainly losing more than we did last season already, with only having 3 teams in the league this year, ourselves, Wanderers and St. Peter now. It's competitive, but it's repetitive, which which is frustrating. You turn up and, oh, we're playing you again this week. We played you last week, but at least the games are competitive. Apart from that 4-0 win that I mentioned in the opener, most games have had just 1 or 2 goals in them here or there. There's been a couple of draws, one involving ourselves, I think one involving the other 2 teams as well. So the games now, you turn up and you genuinely don't know which side's most likely to win. It's a hard one to call.
Yeah.
We had another 2-1 result this weekend where we narrowly lost as well. So that's really good. But it's been a bit of a stop-start first part of the season. We're in the final of the Zenith Cup. We always do well in that competition. I think we might have made the final of it each of the 6 years. And we're off to a good start in the league as well, which is always the big one for me. Shows the best team over the course of the season. But it's quite repetitive stuff at the moment. Albeit, sometimes you might turn up and the other team haven't got their best 2 players, and you might have your best 2, or it might go the other way, and that's quite a big swing. If you've got your best 2 players available and the other team hasn't got their best 2, that's a 4-player swing, and that can therefore give you a good indication of which way the result might go. It's just been hard to get the momentum going really this year.
Yeah. Next kind of question was going to be your opinion on the women's football in Jersey, and you kind of touched on it there really well. It's competitive but repetitive. I think that kind of sums it up in a really good nutshell. But how hard is it as well to keep the motivation up, to keep them coming, training, and all of that side of things, and coming back to play the games?
I think that's possibly something that we've noticed this year, and actually we mentioned in the team huddle after the defeat this year, is that maybe some of that that desire to turn up, particularly at this time of year where it might be raining, to training has maybe faded slightly. We're still getting good numbers at training, and when players are there, they're putting in a hell of a shift as well. And the attitude's great at training. The attitude's great on match days. But maybe I've noticed numbers are down a bit, and perhaps some of that is down to the repetitive nature of it. But I would hope that with that competitive side of it, that the players will want to get stuck in. We've struggled for numbers again this year. Fielded 10 in one game, 11 in another. We're a bit better this weekend. So maybe there's that element of I'll probably be in the starting lineup this weekend, and there's no reserve team football in the women's game, so there's no pressure, I suppose, coming up from another team underneath. If someone's banged in 5 goals in a game for the reserves in the men's game, then you're the striker for the first team and you've not scored for 5 weeks, you might find your spot in trouble. So we don't have that. But the attitude's been spot on from the players. But yeah, possibly have noticed that desire to turn up at training from some players, not all, is maybe down slightly this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Still touching on your opinion a bit and women's football and the league, what do you think could be kind of done to improve or boost numbers and boost morale, I guess, across the clubs, but across the league, and encourage more people to come and play?
I think it's really tricky, and if there was an easy answer, then it would have happened. It's a really tough question, Dan, because other teams have nearly formed over the years. I think it was St Clement a season or so ago were on the verge of setting up a team, had announced they were going to form a team, and then it didn't quite happen. I don't think they could find a coach or a manager that time round. So it's like you got the players finally, and then there's no one to coach them. We saw Portuguese United come in to the local league for a season or 2 as well, which was a brilliant boost for the local league, but then they were struggling to get numbers. So it's not like there's loads of players out there that are knocking at the door saying we can't find a football club to go to. So you could set up a new team, but are the player numbers going to come through the door? We saw St Peter set up, but it was pretty much pick up St Lawrence and plonk down in St Peter, which has been great addition, by the way, as well at St Peter, to have fresh place to go, fresh ground, and a fresh look as well. And both the other sides as well, we've seen have additional young players coming through now, which is great. And that gives some competitive nature to it, I suppose, if you've got those younger players knocking on the door. But it's a really tough question, Dan. I don't know the answer. It's surprising to me because of what we've seen with the Lionesses in England, because of what we've seen with seemingly women's football going places in England, and it just doesn't seem to have caught on here. What I'd say to anyone listening is that if you're new to the game, if you've never kicked a football before, you are very welcome at any of the 3 clubs here in the island. You'll be welcomed with open arms. There's a great social side to it at all 3 clubs, and we need more players in the game. Ideally, we get another team in. It's great that we've got Guernsey coming in for one of the cup competitions in the second half of the season as well, just to add that variety. But yeah, the more players, the merrier, and you'd be very welcome. It is one of the difficulties, perhaps, with coaching and with teams, is that players that are new to the game, so maybe have never kicked a football before, play in the same team as the best player in the island. Makes running a coaching session quite tricky to cater for varying standards. But at the same time, if you're a new player and you've got someone to look up to that's the island's best player and you can train with them, then what a great way to drive your own game on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I double those kind of words and shout them louder, that because obviously I've been involved with Wanderers in the past, and I know the social side is so good. And even if it's to find a new set of friends and then encourage them to improve their football skills at the same time, it's such a good way in, and I would encourage it so much.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
One final kind of question on women's football. Obviously, Jersey FA have entered the competition this year. How good a boost is that for the best players themselves?
So the competition that the island side are in the UK?
Yeah.
Any time that they get to wear that jersey badge, I know those players absolutely love it, and that opportunity to go and represent our island proudly, and they do represent the island in such a brilliant way. It's great for them to test themselves. I know we had discussions around whether Jersey Bulls would set up a women's side this year, and that's all around can and it's the same for the men's game. Can we challenge ourselves at a higher level more regularly? I think, to me, it would, if there was a Jersey Bulls women's team, I'd be pretty worried about the future of the local league. So to this competition that Chad Morris's side and the JFA are in, I think is the good answer. It gives 3 games, I think it is 3 group games, gives them some competitive action, helps them build towards the Marathi against our good friends in Guernsey at the end of the season as well. So it gives them some fixtures at that level. Brilliant to see some new faces in the squad as well. That's over this week, and obviously really pleasing to see some of the Rozel players making up a large chunk of that squad as well. So good luck to them, and it's hard for them to know ahead of those games just how good the opposition are going to be. So it's always a bit of a risk when you enter a competition against unknowns. But brilliant result, actually, the 0-0 the other week to have a backs to the wall display there and come away with a draw. And great opportunity for those girls at the top of the game in the island.
Yeah, definitely agree. Final kind of question from me. We've seen you about with the Gantry now, starting your own writing kind of blog, I guess. You've been around local football and to a few games. How much are you enjoying the men's game at the moment and seeing a few of those games again?
Yeah, so the Gantry is something I set up just as a bit of a hobby, really, just to ensure, because my background at BBC Radio Jersey meant it was week after week covering local sport, and I was missing some of that. So just as a bit of a hobby, a bit of fun, got out to a couple of the early fixtures in the men's game. Looks like it's going to be a good battle this season again, from the games I've seen. Some of the touchline antics, I suppose, of some of the managers are quite frustrating to to hear still. I mean, that's nothing new, but there's an awful lot of whinging that goes on from the coaching staff on the sideline at all levels, I suppose, but certainly the Premiership games that I've seen, and just wish there was a bit more of a positive attitude there, particularly towards referees. But it's been that way for some time, hasn't it? I'm not sure it's going to change by me mentioning it on this interview. In terms of the standards out there, again, I think the Jersey Premiership's in a good place. There's some good battles out there. Again, like I was saying in the Women's League, you turn up at games and, barring a couple, you're not seeing big 7-0, 8-0s too often there. It's more 4-2s, 3-1s. So again, you're turning up to games not necessarily knowing which side is going to win. So to me, that's a really good measure of the game. There's a lot of concern, I think, when Jersey Bulls formed, that the local league would suffer. I think because the men's game has a bigger pool of players out there, 2,000 odd, 1,500, 2,000 players out there. There's more players to fill those gaps that were created by the very top players going to Bulls, and therefore we've got a really competitive local Premiership now. And yeah, I've really enjoyed the games that I've been to. It's been good to see decent numbers of people watching, and to speak to some of those people that have been around local football for a long time, who've got some great stories to tell. So I'm enjoying being out there watching. Just a bit frustrated with some of the managers and coaches on the touchline, which doesn't give our game a great feel to it sometimes. And fortunately, I mean, that's one of the things I've enjoyed in the women's game, is that we don't have so much of that. There's the odd word on the touchline, but I think generally people are accepting in the women's game of the referees' decisions, and there's a good atmosphere on the sideline.
Yeah.
Men's game in Jersey, I've not seen any or much of the lower levels, Championship and Premiership 2, but those Premiership 1 games have been really good to watch.
Yeah, I agree. And you touched on the Bulls there. Obviously, you commentate on them. Obviously, having good season both in the league and in the Fars. How are they looking, and what are your opinions on their season so far?
Yeah, I think they're in a really strong position in the league. Not as strong as they would like, but they've given themselves a good chance now, as we're probably around the midway point in the season, aren't we? So second half of the season, they've got a good base to build on. Quite a few of the games I've seen and commentated on at home have been low scoring, so sort of 1-0s, 2-1s, 0-1s, 1-1s. And there's a strong reliance on Lorne Bickley and maybe Fraser Barlow for the goals, which there has been since Sol Solomon left. Luke Campbell obviously chips in with a few as well. But you do worry kind of if Lorne Bickley was to pick up an injury, touch wood he doesn't, then that goal scoring side of things might be tricky. It's great to see Harry Curtis get in on the goal scoring act at the weekend in the Vars as well. They play some good stuff. I enjoy doing the commentaries, but I just worry that maybe they need some more goals from somewhere. Maybe those long serving midfielders, Luke Watson and Jack Boyle, can chip in a few more in the second half of the season, and they can get a couple of good results against Farnham. Is it the side that's top?
Yeah.
They can get some good results against them, then fingers crossed they can go on and do really well this season.
Yeah, hopefully they do, and hopefully they get the promotion that they've been hungry for a few seasons. Tim, that's all from me today. Thank you for your time. Good to speak women's football again, and then men's football as well. So yeah, thank you, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on. Cheers, Dan.
Top man. Thank you. And thank you to everyone that has watched or listened to this podcast. Another episode is coming soon.